Good morning, LREA members. This is Teresa Knapp Gordon, your president, and I am coming to you with your Fireside Chat this morning to talk about financial negotiations because your financial team just started negotiations last Friday on financials. And so I just wanted to give a little background on what happens during financial negotiations because I get a lot of questions and a lot of people don't understand all of the things that go into it. So I thought I'd take a little time this morning and explain. So, first of all, there are three people on the LREA team, and they are myself, I'm the chief negotiator, Lakeitha Austin from Cloverdale, and Brittany Brooks from Pulaski Heights Middle School. They also are the vice president. Brittany's the vice president, and Lakeitha is the treasurer of LREA. So the district's team is comprised of Mr. Poor, superintendent, Kelsey Bailey, who is the chief financial officer, Dr. Cheryl Carson, who is the principal at Booker, and Robert Robinson, who is the director of human resources. And Kelsey is there to advise on financial matters because he's the CFO. So what we have done so far is we kind of met to set ground rules and to set dates, and then we had a presentation by Kelsey on the financial state of the district. Now, in addition to that, as chief negotiator, I have to do a lot of research, and that research involves pulling budget statements from the district, from the board meeting agendas. It involves pulling down reports from the State Department's website about taxes, property taxes, and foundation funding, and we get funding when we gain or lose students. There is a certain amount of funding that is restricted for use. You know, it can only be used for Title I schools, or can only be used for special ed students or ELL students. And so those are buckets of money that we don't look at because we can't really use that money for salaries or bonuses. And so we look at it and we know how much is there, but we know that money is restricted, and so we can't use that to negotiate for salaries. We also asked the district for a lot of information, including what the enrollment is, how many employees there are in each step and lane of the salary schedule, how many people are taking part in the health insurance, and at what tier. And then we also research laws that have to do with funding and bills that are pending because the legislature is in session, and there are some bills that could impact salaries. We do research all of that and try to get more information about what may be coming that could impact the budget of the district. Because in addition to the bill that would raise salaries, there's another bill that could decrease funding for our career tech programs. So we have to kind of keep an eye on all of that and monitor that as it comes along too, so that we know what the financial impact is of anything that we negotiate. Because if we were to get a salary increase, a percentage increase, it has to be sustainable, because that's not a one-year thing. That is something that would go into the salary schedule and would have to be maintained. And we definitely don't want to cause the district to go into fiscal distress, which would give the state an excuse to keep us longer. So we have to be mindful of all of those things. But, our district has a huge budget, and they spend a lot of money on things that we don't necessarily agree with. And this is the time during financial negotiations that we question all of those things. And we question other items like custodian contracts, outsourced custodian contracts. We question things that we're hearing about through the pipeline, like we're hearing that they're going to replace the maintenance vehicles. Um, so we try to get ahead of all of that. And I develop a list for Kelsey of questions that I need answers to help me have a better picture of what I'm looking at for financial increases. But in addition to that, if I can't get the information from Kelsey for whatever reason, sometimes it's necessary to FOIA the information, and we have that right under the law to FOIA anything that we feel that we need access to. And sometimes in the past, we have had to do that. If you recall, the last time that we got a percentage increase, we had to go to fact finding, which basically was like a hearing before an arbitrator, and it was kind of like a court hearing, and I had to go in and prove that the district had the money to give us what we were asking for, and had to show how it was sustainable. And then Kelsey's job was to prove that the district didn't have the money and that it would not be sustainable. And so obviously we won because we got a 3% increase. But there are lots of different stages to financial negotiations, and when we are at the table, it can be pretty stressful because it goes fast and furious. And I have to know my numbers, and I have to know the budget, and I have to be able to respond to questions or ask questions at a moment's notice as we're negotiating. So it's not something that I can check into later. I've got to know what is there, and I have to know how to negotiate for the best interest of our employees. And I do that. We've lost students over the last 3 years. We've lost a tremendous number of students to charter schools and to private schools, but mostly charter schools. And when those students leave us, they take a little pot of money with them because that money goes with them, especially if they go to one that's within the Little Rock School District. That money goes with them to educate them at the charter school. And we've lost the equivalent of a school's worth of enrollment this past year. And, that hurts our budget a lot because, you put that on top of some other monies we've lost, like the NSLA money, which is National School Lunch money. And it really makes a dent in the budget. Now, I'm not trying to say Little Rock School District doesn't have money, because they do have money. Don't get me wrong. But we have to seek out that money and figure out where it's at and what it's been allocated to, and then we have to convince them at the table that it needs to be reallocated and it needs to go towards employees, because employees deserve a raise and they deserve a percentage increase. Another thing we're talking about this year is the salary schedule, because our salary schedule is pretty long. It's 20 years, and it has a lot of lanes in it. It has bachelor's plus 15, bachelor's plus 24, bachelor's plus 36 or master's plus 15, and master's plus 30. And then there's a stipend for a doctorate degree. So that's a pretty drawn-out salary schedule. And a lot of school districts have gone to 12 or 15-year salary schedules with 4 lanes. And so we're looking at all of that as well. We know that there are about 79 school districts who have starting salaries higher than ours. And that's kind of a big deal, because Little Rock School District needs to be able to recruit. We hired over 150 teachers last year and staff. And, everywhere I go, every school that I visit, people are telling me that they're retiring this year. So I would assume that we're going to be hiring a lot of teachers and staff this year. So we need to be able to recruit because we serve a unique population because we're the urban center of Arkansas, and we need to be able to attract the best. And you do that with salary and benefits. And so that's something that we really need to look at. In addition to that, we have some places in our salary schedule that are kind of, for example, one of the problems in our salary scale is that it's really friendly towards 20-year teachers as far as what they're making, but not so friendly to the middle of the road, which is master's level teachers. And more and more our teachers are coming to us with master's degrees or a bachelor's plus some hours. And so we need to look at the middle of that scale. And I'm not discounting seniority and longevity, but because those are important too, I feel, and I would never give that up. But the middle of the scale needs to be attractive as well in order to recruit those educators who have advanced degrees. And so we really need to look at the overall salary schedule, because that salary schedule, it's been in place for a long time, and we've just added percentages to it. And so there are some, if you look at the differences between each yearly increase, you'll notice that they're not even by any means, and they are not they're not fair in certain spots either. You tend to get more of an increase at certain levels than you do at others. And so we're looking at that and talking about it and thinking about how we can correct some of those problems and still be able to make everybody feel like they got an increase. So those are some of the things that we're discussing. And I also want to reiterate, because every day I'm told people are out there saying that there's no LREA anymore and we don't have any power. And I just want you to understand, and I want you to go out and share this with people. There is an LREA. I am the president of the LREA, and I am down here fighting for our members every single day. We are at the table negotiating money, and if that's not power, I don't know what power is. I don't see ASTA over there at the table negotiating on anybody's behalf, and they're not talking to individual groups of employees to find out what they want. They're talking to us, LREA, and we don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. So please let your people know that LREA is here, LREA still is in force, and your LREA president will never stop fighting for the LREA members. So have a great weekend. I hope that this was informational for you. Look for further updates on negotiations as we go along, and thank you for listening.